Hi, I'm Larry Puckett, the DCC guy. Well, it's a nice, bright, sunshiny day here in western North Carolina. A bit cool because we had a cold front blow through last night. So it's only about 50 out here, so that's why I've got my jacket on. But I've made my run to the hardware store, picked up my 1x4s. So we're going to continue this project building the big Helix by cutting all of the frame members that we need to make the base for the Helix itself. So let's go ahead and get started. But once again, I do want to remind you, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead, do it. It only takes a few seconds and it's free. All you have to do is hit that little red subscribe button, and when the little bell comes up, click on it and click all. Thanks now. So I'm going to go ahead and get started now and cut out all of the frame members that we need for the base. And then once I'm done, we'll move back inside with everything, lay it all out on the floor, and get out the screwdriver and start putting it all together. So hang on while I crank up the saw and get everything cut. Okay, so as I showed you just a couple of seconds ago, I went ahead and did all the cutting outside in my driveway and got all of these various pieces of wood that I needed cut. Now, one problem that I ran into at Home Depot was that availability of lumber still is a problem. At any rate, the stuff that I got here came from Sweden, believe it or not. So a lot of what is being produced apparently is being brought in from other countries and not necessarily being produced in the United States or Canada as it has been in the past. But at any rate, I was able to pick up enough 6-foot links to put this together. Unfortunately, they were totally out of 8-foot links, unless you want the really beat up stuff. And so I was able to pull this together fairly quickly with 6-foot links of 1x4 clear pine. Although that stuff from Sweden might be fir, but I'm not 100% sure. It wasn't marked as far as that goes. Another issue that I noticed while I was there is they were just about out of any decent plywood. And I checked at Lowe's and the same thing there. So I did find some 1/2-inch sanded plywood, and I think I'll be able to use that for the project. It seems to be fairly good material. But all the other stuff that is just the basic sheathing plywood, I mean, it is warped and just garbage, so you don't want to use that for your project. I had at one point considered using hardboard and using 1/4-inch hardboard and doubling it up, but I'm just not satisfied with the potential sagging of hardboard. So I'm going to go ahead and use the 1/2-inch plywood as long as I can find some very good sanded plywood that's in very good shape. And at least they do have that at Home Depot's now. So I guess I better get back down there and buy it. Okay, so what I've done, made up a scale drawing of the baseboard open grid framing. And because it was to scale, I was able to calculate in advance all of the different sizes of, or lengths anyway, of 1x4 that I needed for the project. So I was able to just go out this morning and cut it up without any issues. And notice that there in the center that there's a nice open area, a little over 3 feet on a square. So that's going to allow me to crawl underneath and come up in the center of the Helix if I do need to get in there and do any work or retrieve any cars that have been derailed in the back section of the layout, or just to get to any of the wiring underneath there. So that's what that is for. So it's going to be a nice open area for access to the center portion of the Helix. Okay, so what I want to do now is, I've already, as I said, laid out the open grid framing here. So I'm going to get my screwdriver and go at it and screw all this together. Now for this part of the project, I do have my trusty Black & Decker rechargeable drill. And as you can see here, I've got a countersinking bit in it. So I'm going to countersink all of my screws before I go ahead and install them. And I'm going to be using these number 6 by 1 5/8 inch indoor screws. for the project. I'm not going to be using the drywall screws that I've used in some other cases here. I think they're adequate for the job, but I'm just going to go ahead and use these. They're a little bit better material to work with. And of course, I have my standard Phillips head screw bit for installing those. Now, to get started, I went ahead and struck a line here vertically on the face of the boards that I'm going to be drilling into so that I get a good straight line of screws here and going into the ends of these boards. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and install the screws as I go so that I don't come back and repeat this. Okay, so that's the first two screws in here, so we're starting to build a good solid framework for the baseboard. Okay, I'm going to move on down here and keep going. Okay, so there we've got the second position done on the front here. So let's see, I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. So I have to do this 32 times, and I've gotten 2. So 30 more times, and I'll be done. Now, one thing I don't think I have mentioned is this piece of wood here in the center that goes vertically up underneath the layout. And the reason for that is this layout is attached to the corner, and that's it. So it's cantilevered to some degree, but this center post here is what holds it out at this end of the layout. So what I'm going to have to do is build around it, and then I'm going to be able to install some additional vertical supports at a couple of other positions, and then I can take this one out before I finish constructing the baseboard and bring it up to the final level. So I'm still going to be able to get this out of here without any problem, so no concerns about that. Eventually, when this is completed and the Helix is installed, I'm going to be installing vertical uprights attached to the Helix itself. So I'll be able to support it at 2 or 3 locations here under the layout, so it'll be nice and steady, because I know eventually, once I start operating sessions, somebody is going to come in and lean on it. And if they lean on it without any supports under it, it's going to end up on the floor with them on top of it, probably. Okay, so that finishes off all of the screws here for the boards on the front of the baseboard. So I think I'm going to go ahead and work around the side now and get those done and move on. So as you can see from the sawdust piles, I've managed to get everything done on the left side of the baseboard now. So I'm going to start moving into the center and work on those sections there, because the next thing after that will be to pull this thing out away from the wall and work from the back side to get that taken care of. So let me go ahead and get started down here. Okay, so let me crawl in here and we can get to work on these guys. So let's see. I think I'm going to start right here in the middle and stabilize this before I work to those sides there. Because these, that's been done. This one hasn't, so I need to come back and do that. Okay, so right now what I need to do is pre-measure this location, and I know it is 17 inches from the center point on the previous one. So I can just make a mark there, and then with my tri-square, strike a line vertically so I know exactly where I'm going to need to drill. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to do this one first, then I'll do the other two, and I need to come back and stabilize this guy here. So a couple to go. Let me go ahead and countersink a couple of holes. I found that it works better to go ahead and put one screw in before you try to do the second one. Otherwise you can end up with some wobbly holes. Okay, so at this point all I need to do is several more like that, and I can move on to pulling the whole unit out from the wall and working from the backside. Well, I'm making progress. I've finished everything here on the left side except for what's back there against the wall. So now I've also done everything on the front. So at this point I need to work over there where my drill is and get the box construction finished there. So it's starting to get pretty doggone solid. So it's going to be a good stable baseboard once I get finished here. So let me go ahead and get started there with some drilling some holes. Alright, so that finishes off all of the screws on the outside and also here on the center section. So what I need to do now is crawl out and pull the whole contraption out towards you guys so I can get to the back side of it here and work on those sections that are now against the wall, and that will eventually be back against the wall. So let me see if I can get up off the floor here and crawl out and do a little work. Okay, so I managed to get out, and let's give it a good pull, and it should just come right out. There. Need to bring it out a little bit to the left, and that should give me plenty of room on both sides to work on adding those sections as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything back in position now, and in a second I'll get back in there and start doing some more drilling and screwing. Well, I'm back here on the back side now, so I've finished off just about everything except for this one right here. So let me get this marked, and we can drill it out and screw it, and that will finish this part. Okay, so that finishes off the baseboard. You can see it's fairly lightweight. And what we'll be doing next time to finish it completely, we have to add some legs. So I'll be adding, I think 8 legs to this, 4 around the inside and 4 on the outside to support and give it, the absolute most support you can give it. I don't expect anybody to be dancing on it, but if they happen to, I think it's going to be able to hold them up. So next time we'll be adding the legs to this, and then we'll go ahead and add the baseboard to the top on this section here. That is going to be where the Helix ramp or elevation will begin. So we're getting closer and closer to going up in elevation, but we still got one more thing to do before we can start building those loops and ramping up. So that's going to be next Friday. And in the meantime, have a great week, and we'll see you here again with another video from the DCC guy. Bye now.